2 children are dead in Minneapolis. The media says the guns were legally purchased. The governor says Minnesota's gun laws are strong. But both can't be true. If the guns were truly legal, then the laws weren't strong enough to stop them. And if the laws were really strong, then the guns couldn't have been legal. Not if children are bleeding in the pews of a school. So which one is it today on the 10th Man? The Annunciation Catholic School shooting wasn't just another headline. Far from it. It exposed a contradiction at the very heart of gun control politics. Almost immediately, defenders said trans shooters are rare among the hundreds of school shootings every year. And where do they get that number, hundreds of school shootings? It's from Everytown for Gun Safety, Michael Bloomberg's group. They used to call their data set a list of school shootings. After people like us exposed its absurdity, they quietly renamed it Gunfire on School Grounds. But that's not the only change. The interactive map has been buried on a separate site, harder to find than ever, and the data file that you used to be able to download, now you have to jump through hoops because it's locked down. You can't just get it and look for patterns and do analysis. And that's not transparency, that's control. If you don't believe me, I'll put the link in the description and you can go see for yourself. Because here's what they count as a school shooting. A principal committing suicide in his office. A cop shooting a vandal in a parking lot. Construction workers getting into a fight that ends in gunfire. A drug deal gone bad on a Saturday night sidewalk. A gang fight at a Friday night football game. Even hunters firing at a deer near school grounds. That's what fills out the hundreds. So when the media says trans shooters are rare, that's only true if you count deer hunters, suicides, and drug deals as school shootings. That's not truth. That's propaganda. So strip away the clutter. How many real attacks on primary schools targeting children have happened in America in the last 2.5 years? 2. Covenant School, Nashville, 2023. Annunciation Catholic School, Minneapolis, 2025. Both shooters, transgender. That's not clutter, that's a pattern. And look at who these shooters are. Not bullied teens, not peers lashing out. They're adults. They stalk children. They're suicidal. And here's the first problem. Federal law already disqualifies people with serious mental illness from buying guns. That's why Form 4473, the ATF form you have to fill out to buy a gun, asks about it. Until very recently, gender dysphoria was classified as a disorder by the American Psychiatric Association and by the WHO, the World Health Organization. Then politics came in. The suicide rates didn't change. The biology didn't change. Just the politics. So they used to classify it as a disorder. Were they right then? Or are they right now? Because if the old standard was correct, the Annunciation shooter was already disqualified once. But that wasn't the only red flag. There's another disqualifier. And this one is black and white, still printed on the form today. Form 4473, question 21F. Are you an unlawful user of or addicted to marijuana? Right underneath it says, the use or possession of marijuana remains unlawful under federal law, regardless of state law. In 2023, 2 years prior, Minnesota legalized pot. Governor Tim Walz bragged about it. But federal law didn't change. Which means every marijuana user in Minnesota is automatically disqualified from buying a gun. And the Annunciation shooter wasn't just a casual user. He was a heavy user. He worked in a dispensary. Everybody knew it. That alone should have barred him. And psychiatrists have warned for years heavy marijuana use in the young is linked to schizophrenia, paranoia, and violence. And let me be clear, I'm not talking about the retiree who takes CBD oil for arthritis, or the middle-aged user who takes the edge off once in a while. Those aren't the people planning school shootings. Pot use is one part of a shooter profile. But here's the hard truth. The law doesn't make that distinction. The form doesn't ask if you're a heavy user or a casual user. It doesn't ask if you're 19 years old working in a pot shop or 70 years old using CBD to sleep better. It just says marijuana is illegal under federal law, and marijuana users are disqualified from buying guns, period. And if Democrats want to lecture the rest of us that the gun laws are the gun laws, then it ought to be enforced here most of all. Yet, when the story broke, the media told us the guns were legally purchased. They love that phrase because it makes you think we need new laws. But it's false. These guns were not legally purchased, not under federal law, not under the plain text of Form 4473. A heavy marijuana user lied 3 times on a federal form. That's a felony. And here's where it lands. Tim Walz signed recreational marijuana into law. Marijuana use went up, obviously. Under federal law, gun purchase applications from marijuana users should have gone down, or rejections should have gone up. That's logic, that's math, and that's what a functioning system would show. So what did Walz do to make sure that happened? What safeguards did he put in place? What enforcement followed legalization? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And that's the answer to the contradiction we started with. Walz brags that Minnesota has some of the strongest gun laws in America. But it doesn't matter what his state laws say if the federal law, the law that applies to every state, is ignored. On paper, federal law already disqualified this shooter twice over, once for mental illness, once for marijuana use. Yet the sale still went through. Meanwhile, Hunter Biden lied on the same form. He never killed anyone. He got prosecuted. In Minnesota, a shooter lied 3 times, bought guns, and murdered children. Walz has faced no consequences. And remember Rick Snyder, Michigan's Republican governor, prosecuted for Flint water? Indirectly linked, no one died. Now look at Walz. 2 children are dead after Annunciation. The line of responsibility goes straight back to him, and yet he walks free. So here's the lesson. This isn't just about Tim Walz, it's about the pattern. Democrats brag about passing the strongest gun laws and take a victory lap whenever they do. They brag about their ranking in Bloomberg's database. But then they refuse to enforce the laws we already have. They legalize pot knowing federal law makes pot users ineligible to own guns. They let shooters lie on forms, and when children die, they point fingers and demand more laws. And that's the real contradiction. If the guns were truly legal, then the laws weren't strong enough. And if the laws were really strong, then the guns couldn't have been legal. Both claims can't be true. Not when federal law already disqualified the shooter, and not when children are dead in Minnesota. That's not protection. That's negligence by your public office holders. And negligence costs lives. This has been The 10th Man, where one voice against 9 is often the only voice telling you the truth.